Game number 3 begins, and we have a boss at the very start. And what is this? Oh, this seems like arena. No, oh, wow, what is this? Ancient Lake, actually. Okay, so they have decided to play. Well, quite interesting map. Okay, so this is a map that actually both teams agreed to, which is very interesting. And since this is CZ's home map, oh, well, I have absolutely no idea what to expect because this is the first time I see this map. And second, there is bound to be some special strategy from them. You can see that they are both basically hard divided by this river, so there's not going to be any kind of possibility of land attack without landing, and I'm not exactly sure what they are planning to do here. And of course the map is not all that favorable for CZ, because this is not really all that much of a distance from the wall and could be potentially problematic for some kind of literally anything, because if they lose the water, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Whatever team loses the water in here on this map, that's going to be pretty much it. And yeah, it is a water map for CZs then. And let's see if they are going to be comfortable enough with winning inside the bounds of a normal game. Looking at the civilizations, we have Yannick as Mongol, Follow Your Mind is Viking, Skull is another Mongol, so that's double Mongol Viking. They actually attempted this in the semifinals against NC on the Atlantean relics, but it didn't really work for them, and it actually backfired quite strongly. And didn't work at all, so let's see if this time it's going to be slightly better. LoS are going for pretty much standard Huns, Mongols, Vikings. Even though for water map I would be maybe expecting something slightly different. Maybe some Persians in there. Japanese, who knows? But not here, and I have absolutely zero idea really what to expect on this map, so maybe in the chat somebody can enlighten me and I could actually tell you in here as well. This is mainly for YouTube, of course, as you will be able to read it in the chat, but well, I really don't know what is going to be happening on this map. Otherwise, it seems to be going pretty well. Or rather, it seems to be pretty okay. These mines are very safe for Follow Your Mind, whereas this one is of course not. That's potentially a problem if they happen to lose the water. But yet again, if someone of the teams loses water, I kinda don't see how they can be coming back, because I would be expecting just full-on walling of the shoreline or having houses absolutely everywhere, and I don't expect any kind of surprise landing to be happening at all. That's something that I would be expecting from CZ actually. That they will be some actually early advance into feudal, some early landing somewhere, potentially at the bottom part, if they scout this correctly. But if they go and land on the top, they will be in a bit of a problem, because that's very close to Alucard Guts, and he would be in a pretty big problems in here just because of that, because yeah, it will be very easily discovered if Alucard Guts scouted correctly. Let's see how this is going to develop. You can see Alucard Guts already dropping rock. God damn it, already dropping a dock into the middle, so that's a bit of a defensive actually. You'll be probably hoping that yellow builds it somewhere here, so that they are close by and can actually fight in some pretty 2 versus something battles. And well, at the bottom, Miguelzin is going to be a bit alone, as he is right now sending his villager exactly to the shoreline, trying to finish with the dock in here. Looking also at the distribution of fish, I kinda don't think it can be anything safer, or rather anything more fairer, that's the word I was looking for, and it really seems like that everything will be decided by pure skill or better strategy choice. Dock placement by Yannick basically as you would expect, as not any bad dock placement in here, just only interesting is potentially really between Safaro and Alucard Guts, as they will be having very easy time of getting reinforcements into the battle right between them. So if they can actually lure their opponent somewhere there, they may be some kind of advantage, but probably not anything that should be changing the game all that much. Skull just now having a bit of a flare in here at the bottom, just trying to make sure that his allies know where the water ends, or rather begins, and where the land ends. So let's have a look around the map just a bit more to see what is on it. Some berries at the back, quite a lot of food, of course, absolutely everywhere, and quite a lot of mines that are reasonably safe. And also quite a decent amount of sheep, with 1 relic on the left, 2nd relic on the shoreline, whereas there are 3 relics on the right side, just around the pocket route, but that really shouldn't be anything that should decide the game. Just 3 relics. That's not really anything worthwhile to be even talking about all that much. Otherwise, some kind of unsafe mine, potentially this stone, but very lately in like Castle Age, Imperial Age potentially could be under fire. And yeah, this really brings me back to the point that if somebody loses water and this game goes into late Imperial Age, of course, uh, Cannon Galleons would be pretty strong, as you can see that everybody is reasonably spawned close to all those guys, to all the shoreline in here, which is of course going to be a bit of a problem. Messenger, yeah, they are just asking about the double Mongols, so let's just confirm that they really can. Who was actually asking it? Yeah, no limitation on civs. No limitation on civs, and this is basically telling you that LoS didn't watch the records from the semifinals, and that might be a bit of a help for CZs, because right now LoS will be absolutely unaware how CZs are going to be playing this game. And I'm kind of thinking that they will be playing it very similarly to the first map on Atlantean Relics from the semis versus NC, and let's see if this is going to work for them quite as well, this game in here, because they did own the water quite heavily in there. They did lose in the end, because trade seems to be a much better strategy on Atlantean Relics than actually faster advancing to Castle and the Relics, but well, here it's going to be quite a lot of difference. Yeah, they have, and it is correct, they actually can do that. Yeah, no, actually they don't. That's just players not knowing the rules, which is kinda surprising because this is a rule and thing with RTSD from the very beginning for already 15 years that we are running, and this is a specialty in here. But usually, even though it might seem that it might be some kind of help, usually it isn't. Because the diversity of the civilizations and the team bonuses is usually much more valuable because you can much better actually react to your opponent's plays with diversity than with having the same. Because if your strategy doesn't work correctly, you are basically trapped with it and you cannot change it. So yep, that's the third dock for the deal player. You could see everybody's already in the feudal age with quite a lot of villages in here. Just Alucard's having 19, which is a bit of a problem potentially for him, but he's making up for it with the extra fish, and we are already seeing a bit of a galley rush in here, and let's see if this is going to be strong enough. So that's deal together with yellow, or rather against yellow. We are also seeing Alucard in here, and this is exactly what we were expecting a bit earlier, that yellow together with purple are going to be having a very easy time defending, because they are very close to each other. Whereas at the bottom, it could be very wide open for the Viking of Follow Your Mind, and yeah, of course, the Hun from Miguelzin. So let's see who's going to be better. So far it seems like that Follow Your Mind is having the upper hand as he's having a bit more boats, but yeah, Mikkelsen is already recognizing that he needs to retreat from this position, as he would be in a pretty tough spot right next to the docks of his opponent. But his own docks are not really far away. You can see that he's having 4 docks, whereas 4th is just now being finished for Follow Your Mind, which would be telling you that Mikkelsen will be having upper hand if he plays this correctly in just a matter of moments. On the right, there's a bit of a fight in the middle between Yannick and Safado is of course having quite a huge amount of bows himself, having some at the back also. But well, that's because Yannick is helping a bit more at the top to Skull, and Skull is, so far, doing quite well against his opponent, Alucard Guts. So this is going to be going on for a bit longer, so let's check what is happening somewhere else. You can see that Teal is just trying to make sure that he protects against any kind of landing, already going for Blacksmith, so he will be potentially jumping into the next age reasonably soon. Otherwise, I don't really see any kind of attempt at landing or basically preparing to do anything from CZ, so I'm not exactly sure what their game plan is. They are potentially hoping that the double Mongol without any kind of raiding is going to be strong enough to overcome their opponents, but yet again, if they underestimate the water and if they happen to lose it, it's not going to be worth it at all. Maybe they are hoping that Mongols will be strong enough on the water in here. So let's see. Yeah, And that was kind of careless by Alucard Guts. And looking at the amount of boats by Teal, that's probably not going to be strong enough because, yeah, you can see that Alucard Guts together with Safarawa, aka Ryut, are doing a pretty good job of basically cornering the army. And oh well, that's not going to be anywhere to run. And it's not going to be anywhere to run. And without any kind of help from green player, yeah, this is going to be pretty hard and actually pretty terrible because he's just running into the corner and he's not going to be able to retreat from this at all, which is pretty horrible for CZs because if they had any kind of plan of doing something substantial, they are just going to be losing one player overall. But same could be happening at the very bottom because if you have a look at the minimap, it seems like that green with blue are cornering red in the exactly same manner. So let's finish with this, and once actually Teal is finished altogether, we'll be switching there as well. So yep, goodbye, and that's going to be just the remaining boats in here. Last boat dead. Let's switch to the bottom, and yeah, exactly the same is actually happening at the bottom, as Follow Your Mind together with Yannick are doing a pretty good job of maneuvering their boats as well. So it seems like we are more or less 1v1 on those pretty bad battles for the teams. But well, if I had to guess, Miguelzin is actually doing quite a good job. Quite a good job of defending two opponents just by himself, and it really seems like that LoS are yet again having the upper hand in here, because Miguelzin haven't really lost everything, whereas Teal is in a pretty tough situation, as he has literally nothing right now. He's having just something hidden inside his docks. Let's switch into Skull to have a proper look, and it seems like that he is not prepared to actually eject anytime soon. Green was able to help at least a bit in here, basically just dividing attention, trying to make sure that Skull is having a bit of a time to actually repair the losses or replace the losses for himself. But looking at how he has just stopped at a pretty tough moment, yeah, Safara will be having a bit more extra damage into him. That's a bit of a problem, and it really seems like that the water is heading slowly but surely into LoS hands. So a pretty good job on that, because obviously this is a home map by CZs, and it really seems like yet again that the double Mongols are not going to be as strong as CZs hoped at the very beginning. So let's see if LoS can somehow finish with this, or if CZs are having some kind of idea behind all of this. Looking at the villas, we have 32, 35, 36 for CZs, whereas LoS are having 34 and 29, so they are having slightly weaker economies, but it shouldn't really be all that much decided in here. But on the water, that's a bit of a problem, because Skull has lost all the fishing boats to just 7. It's like half of all the rest of the players in here. Bit of a cat and a mouse in the middle, with nobody going into the next age just yet. See that Yannick is just taking this very carefully. Same goes for Ryut, as they don't really want to lose all their boats. And well, at the top, Alucard Guts is having a pretty great naive, and I'm kind of thinking that he can actually take this army on, and he should be winning even by himself, as he is having a pretty good numbers. And if Yellow would be helping him, which he doesn't seem to be, as he's just moving to the bottom, hoping that he can surprise Follow Your Mind, which he exactly did. And yeah, this is a very nice attempt, and a very nice maneuvering and communication by Lords of Skulls on the water, both at the top and at the bottom. So nicely played, and really nicely executed so far by the reigning champions. Very nice reinforcements by Safaro. Yannick going to Castle Age as the first player, and let's see if somebody else is going to be coming somewhere soon after him, because still this game is far from over. Because if he can transfer into the Castle Age and build enough fireships, he still might be able to actually go through and somehow retake the water. But yet again, that's not going to be all that easy, as of course, with so many galleys and not really enough from your own team, it's of course not going to be all that easy to do absolutely anything on the water. Bit of a skirmish at the top between Yannick and Alucard Guts. Seems to be a pretty interesting battle, and it almost seems like that Yannick is actually not convinced that he can win, and he was just trying to basically out-micro his opponent, but Alucard Guts was having none of it, and he was microing himself, and he is right now forcing Green to retreat, but he is having a slight reinforcement that should be just enough to turn the battle around, and he definitely could use some extra reinforcements from Ryut. Ryut is having a pretty great naive, and I kinda thinking that if they can join together with Alucard Guts, they will be in a pretty good spot to get rid of Green as well, because they more or less have gotten rid of Teal altogether, but he has already landed in here successfully with one villager at the very end, and I would maybe even delete this one. Exactly. Oh my, he's reading my mind, exactly. Even though some 2 minutes ago. Exactly what I would do as well, because he needs to make sure that they are actually absolutely oblivious to what is happening in here. You can see that the Lumberjack from Vikings is actually going here. Let's switch into Alucard Guts. And oh well, he was moving there, but he's moving to the left with the house. But he is a bit too late because Staple is already finished, and he will be hoping that he can actually be strong enough in here. Well, needs to be a bit more careful, Skull, but this is definitely one to actually have a look at, because this is going to be a pretty huge surprise for LoS if they are not careful about this at all. Castle Ages for Alucard got Semigalzin, so unfortunately it seems like that it might be a bit too late, whereas on the water, yeah, Red is basically owning his blue opponent. Let's switch into Follow Your Mind, who is having something hidden inside his docks, and it's actually not a small army. He's going to be having War Galleys reasonably soon, and that could actually be enough to get rid of the red army before it gets War Galleys himself. So yeah, this is something that they are playing quite nicely, and you can already see the War Galleys from green making quite a lot of difference in the fight against Safaro, who is having quite a lot of yellow boats right next to green. Unfortunately, green is retreating to a pretty bad spot, as he's basically going to lose all of it. Maybe he just wasn't getting enough, so he thought he might just as well lose them, but let's see if they are going to be strong enough in here at the top. So Skull is going for the first trade, and he's probably going to be slunk, I would be expected. I would even double sling him at this stage. But so far, no sling. No sling, so this is just normal, and well, it seems like that it might be a bit too late for CZ Scout, because Safaro just now. WTF, he lands. Oh well, yeah, he did, and he did deny the goal of Alucard Guts, which is a pretty big victory for him, because this goal is also denied, and he will be without any goal whatsoever. Yes, one at the bottom, but if Scout plays this correctly, he will be in a pretty good spot to defend against this kind of raiding as well. So potentially some villagers dead. He plays this well, but I kind of think that he can still finish with the TC, but it's going to cost him some villagers. Yeah, this is going to be exactly finished right there, but let's see if this is going to be enough to disrupt what Safaro is doing and what Alucard Guts is doing as well. Alucard Guts is basically in a pretty tough trouble without the gold, obviously, so that's going to be quite hard for him to deal with. Whereas at the water, we are seeing a pretty big comeback by CZs in here, and let's see if this is going to be enough. There are two armies from Riot together with Migalzin. Whereas Alucard Guts is not really having all that many boats. He's not going for the water altogether. He's probably out of gold, I would be guessing. Yeah, just 100 gold, so he doesn't have the resources for it anyway. But well, same could be said about Skull, who is not going for it at all. So it's basically equal, and seems like that LoS might be still having quite a lot of fight to go to basically secure the naval dominance in here. Alright. Yeah, let's just check how Skull is doing in here. And at the top as well, already seen Mangonels. So that's going to be, oh, you can see the trap in here. Mangonel. And this. Yeah, tough luck, Alucard Guts. Tough luck. Indeed. Another TC being built, which is also going to be quite nice defense for the shoreline. But, well, he's already retreating, so that's very nicely played from Alucard Guts, as he was actually exactly expecting what's going to happen. And even though, oh, he actually saw it. Ah, yeah. He probably saw the Mangonel through the mining camp, so that's kinda unfortunate for a Skull, because that was a pretty nice trap. But, well, very nicely played by Alucard Guts, as he was paying enough attention and just saved quite a lot of villages to himself. Nicely played, yet another pause, unfortunately, or is there just some kind of lag? It might be a bit of a lag, not exactly sure. They were complaining about it a bit earlier, but well, also double ballistics in the ships in here, so that could be a bit of a problem for CZs, because I don't remember if they went for it, and I would be guessing that they actually did not. Alucard Guts seems to be signaling that he's going for monks, which is of course a pretty good idea, as he's facing just some knights and mangonels. And let's see how this water engagement is going to go. And I would be guessing that it's slightly more favorable for CZs, as they are having docks a bit more closer in here. Oh, come on, it's one ship that could actually be dealing damage, but with the reinforcements coming in from Safaro, they need to be careful, as they might be finding themselves in a pretty tough battle. That won't be going all that well for them, as it so far seems to be. So pretty big water battle. finally in the end going for CZs, and big problems for actually LoS, because they right now seems to be slightly losing the water, and if they lose it altogether, oh well, they are in knee-deep trouble, because that would allow yet another landing potentially at the bottom, and that would be pretty tough for them, for LoS to deal with. You can see town sentry being built. That's of course going to take some time by the one villager. Ice vault at the top, but still no any kind of gold. But yeah, already those monks are going to be problematic, as of course they are going to be converting all those guys. But he's probably going to be trying to convert them back. Let's see about this. He's probably going to try and run at the top, I would be guessing. And then monk will be trying to convert him back. Come on. Exactly. Nice anti-conversion. It seems like that this guy actually cannot decide which side he wants to fight for. Tough for him. But well, he's probably going to die anyway, so yeah, it's not going to matter all that much. But very nicely played by Skull, as he was expecting exactly this to happen. And this is a very correct counter, and big problems coming for LoS from the top. Oh, yeah, unfortunately it is. So Karkas, you didn't protect the shoreline fast enough. Exactly as Skull did. You can see Skull on the minimap. He was building the houses. We were targeting that a bit earlier. But well, right now that's a big problem for them, as he also was quite sneaky about it, which allowed him to put out some units before he was even spotted. Pretty big navy right on the Yannick's doorstep, so he needs to be careful together with his ally. And yeah, you can see that follow your mind. Oh well, he's playing this quite nicely as Viking, and he's doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well, and it seems to be that he will be basically concentrating on the water battle as a Viking, as he should, and he will be owning it just by himself, allowing potentially his allies to land as well. And about his allies, I'm talking about Yannick, because as a Viking he doesn't have anything to offer on the landing, so yep, there's going to be some kind of idea for CZs, and potentially something that will develop a bit further. You can see already some defense by Red, as Miguel's in as a Hans. He's switching into some cavalry archers in here, but of course that's not going to be as successful. But if he can micro enough and basically keep them alive, he might be amassing some kind of number. You can already see that he's having like 8 of them, which is pretty decent, and with good positioning he will be killing quite a lot of knights and also potentially the mangonels. So yeah, his TC seems to be basically down. Quite a lot of stone being gathered by Safarao, which seems to be signaling that he is quite ready to go into the next age and build his castles for the Mangurais. Okay, right now attempting basically to... That's a bit of a desperation mode, but I'm kind of thinking that he is at least trying to slow his opponent down as long as he can, so that he can allow Miguelzin to build as many cavalry archers as he can to potentially get rid of all those guys. And even nicely played. Priests are dead, but they did take at least one of them. So let's see, this is so far very nicely played. But I also need to have a look at the top, where it seems like that... Oh, man, this is careless. This is careless by Skull, because he is probably not aware, right now he is aware, that TC is being built at the gold, and once this TC is actually built, Alucard Guts will have unhampered access to the gold mine, and that's exactly what he needs, because so far he's having none, and once he does have that, he will be fully into the game. So good job by Alucard Guts, basically making up for his mistake, and right now he should be getting into the game just as well. So it seems like that Skull's offensive is basically stopped. As unfortunately for him, he also lost the Willy, but he could still convert some. You can easily convert some of the villages in here. That could be helping you quite a lot, but he needs to be careful about those knights that were already converted before by the very nice defense of the purple player. So it seems like that Skull will be needing quite a lot of help very soon, whereas at the bottom the control of the map, or rather of the water, seems to be fully in CZ's hands right now, and it's kind of surprising because LoS did have it in their hands, but not any longer, and yep, not any longer, and it seems like that Blue is the only one who is going for water fully, which means that Yannick will be attempting to land sometime soon as well. So of course this is quite nicely played, as Alucard Guts is going to be losing some villies, and of course quite a lot of farms, and what's more important, that he's very close to the shoreline in here, and once somebody like the Viking, follow your mind, advances into Imperial Age and goes potentially for cannon galleons, that's going to be very, very nasty for Lords of Skulls, and they will be having yet another problem on their hands. So Skull seems to be falling under the power of Lords of Skulls. as of course would be expected from their names. But well, yeah, Alucard seems to be playing right as he should at this time, as he's going for yet another TC, trying to basically capture the goal, and it seems like that Skull will be forced to retreat somewhere or potentially rebuild somewhere else altogether. There's still quite a lot of potential to land at the bottom if they can get rid of all those... Ooh, blue, come on, need to get rid of those, otherwise they're going to give you up. And I'm slightly worried that is exactly what's going to happen here, because you will be seeing some extra landing very soon. And really, this bottom would be exactly the idea, but finally Blue notices, and he will be getting rid of all those war guys. But this is also telling Miguelzin, if he's paying attention, that potentially this is exactly coming, and he needs to be building something in there, and potentially protecting against the extra landing in here. Well, they are just trying to corner the knights, as they are basically just running around not doing anything, as they really cannot, as cavalry archers are having much better maneuvering availability or abilities. And of course, when they are under control of Miguelzin, that is going to be, yeah, very nice control by a very skilled player, and you can see that he's already maybe even trying to wall them in, and also trying to convert them with the monks in here from Riot, so that's very nicely played. And they should be finishing with those guys reasonably soon. And oh, they're actually running into total trap. There's not going to be anywhere to actually retreat from here. And let's see if actually Safaro is able to wall him in. Let's switch into Safaro if he knows how the map looks. Unfortunately, he didn't really all that much, but this is probably going to be for market. Okay, so he wasn't just trying to make some cheesy play to trap them in there, but well, quite a lot of conversion already going on as well. Pretty big problem, as all the extra resources are coming for LoS. That's going to be some nice trade, even though a bit tricky looking at the tree line in here, so that's going to be, yeah, kinda clunky for them. And looking at the forward base of Skull, he seems to be basically out of position in here, and he's going to be losing all the buildings in here in just a matter of moments. He's also advancing into Imperial Age as the first one, as Mongol, and looking how others are advancing as well. Follow your mind, Miguelzin and of course Safaro and Alucard as a bit of a problem, as CZs are going to be falling behind if they cannot land fast enough and build their castles. Potentially they can build castles in here, so this seems like a pretty reasonable, safe place. And if they can really build a castle like Skull, he will be in a pretty good position to basically advance from here, and I would be fully expecting for him to take this chance, as he cannot really delay all that much longer, as if he does, he is going to be way too late, and of course there's not going to be the chance anymore. Trade being built at the bottom as well, so far Miguelzin is not aware, and that's also a pretty big problem, but finally building a castle, because if he doesn't protect this part of the map and lets his opponents land in here, he is going to be losing the trade route altogether, and that's definitely something that he doesn't want at all. Well, I'm just looking at the trade route in here, which is going to be quite difficult for the trade cards to negotiate, and I don't really expect it to be all that efficient, and really potentially seems to be not as effective as it could be for CZs. Let's just check here. It's also being built, already running, and it seems to be slightly better for them. Slightly more straight actually than LoS, and it could be also making quite a lot of difference, as they will be needing a ton of it, literally a ton of it, because if they don't, Mongols are going to be quite hard to play without any kind of gold. You can see that with the protection of the castle, Miguelzin is attempting to rebuild his docks, so he will be trying to make an entrance onto the water yet again, and with the castle in here, he actually might be able to do so. You see Miguelzin for galleons, whereas Follow Your Mat is going for cannons. So let's see if he can be faster than his opponent, because if he can, he also already having pretty decent navy, he will be just killing this idea before it even began, and that's something that will be helping quite a lot. So Viking is actually going to be quite a lot important in this map, obviously, due to the cannon galleons, because he doesn't need to sling in here. If he can build enough cannon galleons, he will be just disrupting the economy, basically allowing for raiding, and it might be some kind of strategy that CZs will be going for in the next minutes. A lot of cavalry archers, of course, in here to the boats. It was some kind of misplay by Miguelzin, who probably wasn't paying attention as he was looking at the bottom, and well, he did pay for it with the lives of his soldiers, and as you can see in here, just waiting for the cannon galleons to get rid of the castles yet again. kinda thinking that there is something that actually LoS are not aware of at all, or are not counting with. And that's going to be a pretty nasty surprise, because that's going to cost quite a lot of stone, especially to Safarao, and since he's a Mongol, he needs quite a lot of it, and yeah, he's probably not going to be happy about how the game is going to go in the minutes to come. Somebody actually slinging in here just yet. Somebody is. Yannick is slinging, yeah, as a pocket into Skull and slightly into Follow Your Mind, because Follow Your Mind needs extra resources for the Galleons, of course. And let's see where Skull will be attempting his next raiding, or the next landing. You can see that at the top he's at least trying to prevent another castle, as there is one defensive one at the very top, which is of course quite nice placement, as it protects both the gold and the stone, and also protects against the landing in here. So this is kinda gutsy. He did finish the castle, so it was quite justifiably gutsy, and he's also attempting to go back onto the water in here, and the cannon galleons are not going to be coming fast enough. Already in here. That's interesting fight. Cannon galleons versus trebuchets. So let's see if they can hit. This looks to be coming through. Oh yeah. And it was nicely played. Follow Your Mind did notice that it was actually aiming home, but wasn't able to actually go back soon enough. Right now he is. And this is just going to be a bit of a micro battle. I shouldn't be going Red's way unless he actually builds extra trebuchets in here. Yet another one. That's pretty good. Pretty good one-shots in here actually. And pretty costly ones. Wow. Nicely played. Nicely played, and big problem actually for Follow Your Mind, because he cannot get through that. He cannot get through that at all. You can also see that Safarao is housed somehow. He's having just 130, so he needs all the extra houses. And well, that's a lot of docks being built. Absolutely everything that he can, Migazin is pushing into the docks, because if he cannot defend this shoreline, he will be out of the trade and basically relinquishing the control of the map altogether. So far this seems to be a pretty crucial battle for the bottom part, whereas at the top Will seems to be good enough job of containing Alucard, who was attempting to go back onto the water, but he is not going to be successful enough, even though he's advancing into Galleons. But really, I'm thinking that he is not going to be strong enough at all. I'm really waiting for the landing in here, because this is absolutely perfect placement. You can see that it's already in. Potentially castle could be fitting in here. Potentially I think it could. Not exactly positive about it, but he's going a bit more forward into position like here. Oh well, that's pretty sweet. Let's switch into Alucard Guts. Oh, those Willies in here. Yeah, they see it. They see it, so they see the landing. So that's going to be double siege workshop, but with all those extra galleons in here, I was going to say it's going to be enough, but Safarao seems to be playing this correctly with all those docks producing quite a lot of galleons themselves, and he needs to be a lot more careful, as Blue is not paying enough attention at the top. He's just probably looking at the bottom, and well, let's see. Let's see if he's going to be fast enough. It's yet another castle. Problems are cropping up really fast for CZ, because it's going to be very hard to basically do anything with just galleons. And here you can see that Safarao is playing this very nicely indeed, and he's having quite a lot of boats right now, and he will be putting purple, or rather teal, out of commission altogether, even though he is trying to send reinforcements way too late. I can see Siege Ram attempting to actually go for the castle, but he didn't account for the huge amount of villages. But well, let's have a look at the bottom yet again, where Blue is doing all he can to prevent Red from coming back into here. Yet another castle being built, so it seems like that LoS are playing this quite correctly and very nicely indeed. And if they can finish with the trebuchets soon, well, quite nice. I'm kinda curious why Follow Your Mind is actually playing this a bit better. You could be just selecting a few boats, just like one or two, and targeting the villages. And if you would be doing that, you would be just killing the trebuchet just like that very easily. So let's see. Yet another attempt, and yet another one shot into Cannon Galleon. And this is not working as fast as CZ would have hoped, I would be guessing. Yeah, they definitely need to hurry up if they will be strong enough to go through here. This is basically a game-changing battle right here. Whoever wins this battle is probably going to be winning the game, as on the top it seems to be more or less equal and still pretty good opportunities, but Safarao is doing all he can, as if he can defend his ally Alucard Guts, he will be also in a pretty good position to go for the victory at the top as well. So, LoS, even though they were having pretty big problems with the water in the middle and also the landing, they seem to be coming back in full strength. And with all this huge amount of docks, it's going to be very, very hard. Very hard for Skull to actually do anything about this. He is building quite a lot of cannon galleons, or rather, not cannon galleons, siege rams, as he is having siege workshops at pretty much the correct placement, and quite a lot of them. So if he has enough resources, let's switch into Skull. He actually has, but he is housed. Not exactly sure if he is aware that he needs one extra. Build him with the castle, so once he builds the castle, it's actually going to be enough. He is going to on it quite cleverly and can be killing quite a lot of villies as well. You can see quite a lot of skeletons. That's 5, 6, 7, 8 skeletons right there. 9 actually, 9 skeletons, and that's a pretty big threat and pretty big navy by the teal player, and that might be even more than Safaro is having right now, but he needs to be playing something in the middle, because you can see that Safaro is building a ton of galleons himself, and obviously, yeah, these guys seem to be trapped in here a bit. But this is pretty threatening, and I'm not exactly sure if Follow Your Mind will be able to defend against that just by himself, as even though he's having quite a lot at the bottom, he is having to fight Miguel's in, as he seems to be basically giving up on the position in here, as he's not able to kill the castle. Or giving up on the position, he's moving slightly backwards. He is having quite a lot of them, ton of dogs, but yet again, once Yellow arrives on the battlefield, as he seems to be, he will be needing all the help from the teal that he can get. So far though, it seems like that Skull is noticing, which is just as well, but he needs to be moving to the bottom as fast as possible, because he needs to deny the very threatening double for as soon, or rather as long as possible, because yeah, oh, this is going to be quite costly, as those galleons are going to be just wrecked by those normal, or rather cannon galleons are going to be wrecked by those cannons, or the other way around, cannon galleons wrecked by normal galleons. Yeah, Miguel's just asking if actually Safaro can kill absolutely everything, and you can see that Teal is actually not joining in, so that's going to be up to Blue just by himself, and well, it means that, well, Skull will be forced to fight against Alucard just by himself in here. Get another attempt by on landing. Unfortunately wasn't able to finish with the stable. Second will probably be finished, but well, looking at how many boats he's going to be actually encountering right now, that's probably not going to be enough, and he will be in a pretty tough position just right there. Oh, even Berserker is being built, but since it's basically the only unit that right now Alucard can make, why not? As they are not half bad against siege rams together with hussars. Well, it might be some kind of idea for him to go forwards in here, potentially even get rid of all those buildings that are already being prepared by Skull. Skull is definitely thinking quite heavily about it, and since he is Mongol, he's probably going to switch into hussars fully. He will be building a lot of hussars with siege rams, potentially hoping that he can kill down or rather take down the castles, but there's quite a lot of them, and let's see if he's going to be strong enough. Quite a lot of navy, of course, is going to help, as Alucard is definitely not having enough, whereas at the bottom it seems like that Follow Your Mind, as the Viking is having a pretty nice game and is able to hold on to opponents just by himself, and so far he is doing a damn good job of keeping the hopes of his team alive. Nicely played so far. Nicely played indeed, whereas Safaro is trying to send on all the reinforcements in, but with this huge amount of boats by the Viking and very nicely defended coast, and especially quite a lot of docks in here. Yeah, it's going to be very, very hard for LoS to do anything about this. We should be also looking on the mainland at the state of the woods. Still a ton of them. Okay, so that's not any kind of problem. Not any kind of problem yet, and this game can go on for another hour at least with the boats in here. So let's see, that's going to be another attempt at actually clearing everything that Miguelzin has built in the meantime, which is going to be pretty easy as he's just out of range of all those castles, and if he plays this correctly, he will be in a pretty good spot. You can see this poor gal actually being trapped in here and just eating unnecessarily the population limit, and that's a bit of a problem when you actually build docks all that close together. So a pretty good play by Follow Your Mind. So let's have a look at the top, where it seems like that Scala is doing a pretty good job of pushing through, and I would be guessing that we are sealing some sling by Alucard Guts. Actually we aren't. That's slightly shocking me, because since he is a Viking and he is not really doing as much on the water as I would expect from him. I would be thinking that he is slinging his allies, basically hoping, or rather into Safaro, hoping that he can defend himself or at least push through the bottom, but it's not happening, which also means that Skull through already all those buildings, yeah, that was pretty much the critical mass for the buildings, is able to push through, and he's just wrecking absolutely everything inside Purple's base, and that's very important. You can see Skull going for coinage. Interesting research at this stage of the game, with Yannick for chemistry and bracer. Oh, and he might be landing somewhere himself. I would be guessing so, because otherwise you wouldn't be going for those researches. And let's see where he is going to land. Safaro trying to help at least a bit. He's having a lot of castles, so why not? With all those Mangudais, and they could be pretty much the correct unit, of course, against siege rams. But looking at those Hussars, yeah, kinda guessing that without any kind of help from Alucard Guts, it's going to be hard for LoS to defend at the top at all. So the water seems to be basically conquered, and the land as well, at least on Alucard Guts. And let's see if at the bottom they can somehow still manage to win in here, because it's not like they are altogether dead, because there's still quite a lot of villagers for Purple. And yeah, he's rebuilding his town center, but he needs to protect somehow. Together with Safaro, he's already building a defensive castle, the trade route, because if they can't, that would be the nail in the coffin. At the bottom, Miguelsen seems to be basically growing in numbers as we go, but he doesn't seem to be having enough to push through the blockade of Follow Your Mind, as he was able to defend against Safaro quite nicely, and even without any kind of extra help. He'll move in a bit to the south, basically trying to disrupt the reinforcement route for Safaro, so that's of course quite successful. And yeah, this is a very nice, interesting idea for Miguelsen, who is seeing that he cannot really go anywhere from the bottom, as he's totally blockaded and blocked by Follow Your Mind, as he needs to be able to maneuver somewhere else as well. I'm just going to be waiting for the green villages to move forward as well. So far they are nowhere, a lot of idle boats, definitely could be doing something there. And a lot of castles being built, and yeah, we can already see that Yannick will be moving somewhere. And is he sending just units which into Yannick, or is it going to be as villagers? It seems like that he will be sending just army. It's kind of interesting choice that he doesn't want to land, that he just wants to actually transport some kind of units, and well, they will be helping quite nicely by Trebuchet, and they are definitely what is needed in here, because Skull doesn't seem to be having the correct army against all those Mangudais, because of course he doesn't have paladins himself, so he needs some kind of help. You can already see the first transport arriving, but they need to be a bit more careful, and potentially could be wanting to make this a bit of a surprise, but that surprise is gone, and he is probably hoping that he can raid his opponent's economy. You can see already a lot of villies dead, and he is going for the kill. He is going for the full-on kill, but he needs to be careful, as there's quite a lot of them in here, and yes, Safaro is well aware it's exactly aiming to cut him off somewhere around here. Yeah, Yannick sending quite a lot of extra resources to Skull and Follow Your Mind, as they are doing a pretty good job in their play, and yeah, this is a landing for one purpose only, and that is raiding the trade route. But unfortunately for him, Ryut is playing this very correctly and very intently, just going for it as he could and should, and he's getting rid of the pesky Mangudais himself and will be protecting the trade for the time to come. That also means that Teal will be forced to wait for a bit better moment to actually continue with his raiding. Even though Alucard Guts is dropped to just 100 villagers, but it doesn't seem to be all that much better for Follow Your Mind, who is at 83, but Yannick at 169 basically makes up for the difference and is sending all the extra resources in. Yeah, you can see already a lot of cannon galleons yet again, with Miguelsen coming into the help from the other docks at the top, but that doesn't seem to be enough. So with all those cannon galleons, he's finally hoping that he can kill, even potentially, this trebuchet, but much more importantly the castles, and one is down, and that's, yeah, one step towards victory on the water battle at the bottom of the map. So yeah, the trade route is getting all that much more into danger. And well, this is pretty strong, and you can already see that the trade cards are somehow taking an unfortunate route around, as they are already blocked somewhere, but a lot of idols in here, and they are thinking it's actually a pretty straight line. They have worked on wood lumbering quite nicely, and yeah, seems like that the battle at the bottom is pretty much won. Okay, and here we see exactly, as he called it a bit earlier, this was the battle to decide the game, and it has just now decided, because there is no coming back from this lost shoreline, as it means that the trade cards are going to be dead very soon, and that means no gold for LoS. No gold means no army. So even though Ryoto's doing a pretty good job at the top, trying to kill them, yeah, he wasn't fast enough, and this was, even though it was quite risky from CZs at the very start, and they almost lost because they didn't really do all that well on the water altogether. They mounted quite nice comeback, very nice sneak by Skull that disrupted Alucard Guts and basically switched the attention from the water, allowing CZ to retake it, and then they did not let go. Nicely played, and CZs are going to be leading 1, or rather 2-1 after game number 3. Nice score for Follow Your Mind. He was doing pretty well on the water. Yeah, really nice units killed and units lost. Not bad. And pretty strong sling, 50,000 resources. Yeah, and at the very end, actually Alucard was sending into a sling, and I kind of thinking that he should have been slinging a lot earlier into the defense, but they were trying to retake the water, and they almost succeeded. And unfortunately, the Viking from CZs played quite well indeed. Villager Hide 197 from Yannick. Okay. Well, GG.